Hello, hello! I'm Pat. I've been a nurse for 8 years, and this is how I got into a PhD nursing program. So in my last video, I talked about why I wanted to get a PhD in nursing. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how I got into the PhD program that I got into. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I chose the school that I chose to go to. Then I'll talk about the application requirements that I had to fulfill. Then I'll talk about the interview process, like the questions they asked and the answers I gave. Then I'll talk about how I found out I was accepted, and then all the steps that will follow, like registering for classes and going to orientation. Lastly, I'll talk about how I felt about the whole application process. Okay, so one of the biggest things when applying to a PhD program is figuring out what school you want to go to. For me, some of the things that I wanted in a school were a flexible schedule. I have 4 kids, I'm married, I'm still working part-time, so I wanted a schedule that was flexible. Next, I chose a school that was fairly close to home just so I could stay in the area in case I needed to go to campus. Lastly, I wanted to choose a program that was known for having good resources and for having just an overall good curriculum for their students. So in the end, I ended up choosing a university that's about an hour and a half away from my house. And what I love about it is that it's an online PhD nursing program. Most of the classes are synchronous, meaning you have to be online at that specific time in order to get credit for that class. But the classes are virtual, so you don't have to drive anywhere. So that checks off the flexible schedule requirement that I wanted. Also, this university is part of a bigger university system, so I know it's a renowned nursing school. I will back up and mention that even before applying to a PhD program, one thing that I had to think about was, is this the right time for me? This PhD program is going to be at least 4 years, maybe 3 if I work really hard, they said. But that's 3 to 4 years that you have to dedicate your time to. And for me, it really is a good time in my life because I just had a 4th baby. I'm not going to get pregnant anymore, so I can just dedicate my time and focus to school. And yes, I still have to take care of my family and work part-time, but it's kind of like I already have that routine down packed. I just kind of have to add this and do some more time management, which I know I can do. So for you, if you're planning to apply to grad school, really try to figure out, do I want to apply this year or maybe next year, or do I have to get some financial things in place first? So those are some things you might have to consider before applying to grad school. Okay, so once I chose the school that I wanted to go to, the next step was to submit my application. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just read off the application requirements from my computer because I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. So of course they required your transcripts from all of the universities or colleges that you attended. They also wanted a copy of your resume. They wanted 3 professional references, and also a personal statement of research. And they said somewhere, I can't find it now, but if it's an international application, then there's gonna have to be like an English proficiency test or something like that. Okay, so let's talk about each requirement one by one. So the transcript was pretty easy for me to submit. All I had to do was go online and click the school that I wanted my transcripts to be sent to. Next, submitting my resume was also easy because that's just on my computer. I just had to upload it and send it. Then these next 2 things were the trickiest things to get, I think. The 3 professional references and then the personal statement of research, which is about 300 words. For me, getting 3 references wasn't that bad. I used my old manager, and then I used a professor, and then one of my mentors who has a doctorate in nursing as well. The only thing is just making sure that they got the link and they submitted it before the deadline. So if you're applying to grad school, of course, make sure your references are those who will talk highly of you. Also, it helps if you send them a copy of your resume just so they know what you've been up to lately. And of course, make sure you have clear communication so that they know exactly when the deadline is to submit the reference. And then the last big part of the application was this 300-word statement of research. Mostly, they wanted to know why you want to get your PhD in nursing. What topic of research are you interested in? What has been your nursing journey so far, and what are your nursing goals with your PhD? And then also they want you to take a look at their faculty directory and see if there's anyone on their list who you would want to work with on your research project. And I will say that writing this statement of research was easy for me. I know I kind of compared it to writing my nursing school essays, like applying to nursing school. And writing my essays for nursing school was way harder. I think there was just a lot of pressure with trying to get into nursing school. So I was just very strategic with it. I felt like I had to do this, this, and this. I had to say this. They want to hear this. But with this PhD essay, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but I was just writing from the heart. I just explained that I want to get my PhD in nursing because I want to be a professor. I have a lot of experience in teaching and I have a lot of admiration for nursing, so I want to put both of my passions together. And all of the words just kind of flowed out onto the paper. I think the biggest challenge for me was actually trying to make my essay smaller into the 300-word requirement. But yeah, so as long as you kind of figure out what it is you want to get out of the PhD program and really just convey that in the essay, I think that'll help you if you're trying to get into a PhD nursing program. And I forgot to mention that their GPA requirement was a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. But yeah, those were the requirements for the application process. Once all of those things were good, you pay the fee and it's submitted. Okay, so I submitted my application and within maybe a week and a half, I heard back that I was invited for an interview. I was super excited, also kind of nervous. The day came and I had an interview with 3 faculty members. First, it was the director of the PhD nursing program. Then there was the dean of students for the PhD program. And then there was another PhD nursing professor there. Actually, the professor who was part of the interview process also had ED experience like me, so I think they chose her just so we could have like this common ground. Okay, so you're probably wondering what kind of questions they asked in the interview. Well, first, they just started off with the basics, like what has my nursing career been like so far? So I talked about how I started off as a new grad in the cardiothoracic ICU. Then I moved over to the emergency room. And then I went to this non-bedside nursing career, but I'm still interacting with providers and helping with patient care, like in the big picture. Then they asked why I wanted to get my PhD in nursing. And I explained that I love to teach and I love nursing, so I wanted to combine both of my passions and become a nursing professor. Then they asked why I chose their program specifically. And I said the biggest reason why I chose it is because it's an online program. It really helps with my schedule. The flexibility of the program is really ideal for me. I also chose it because I know the school itself is good and the nursing program has a lot of resources that I think I can use. And also I've heard a lot of good things from their PhD nursing program specifically. Then they started to ask questions that were specific to my goals with my PhD. They wanted to know what kind of research topic that I would be interested in. I am interested in maybe seeing the dynamics of having an ICU patient in the ED. I know whenever I was in the ED, anytime we got an ICU patient, it took a lot of time away from the other patients that I had. So figuring out what affects like patient care and nurse effectiveness when you have an ICU patient in the ED, because you have that one ICU patient who needs like hourly care, but you also have at least 3 other patients who have meds or assessments or things that need to be done, and you have to juggle all of that. So I want to figure out maybe how can it be more effective? What tools do nurses need in order to succeed when you have an ICU patient in the ED? And this is just a really rough idea. I'm sure my research topic will develop and change over the years as I work on it. Then they asked about my strengths and weaknesses and how I think this would impact me getting a PhD. I said my strengths are being a self-starter, I have really good critical thinking skills, but also I'm very empathetic. So being a self-starter during this PhD program will be very helpful, especially since it's online. A lot of it will have to come from me, like my motivation and finding the time to do my assignments. And then also being a critical thinker, like when I'm trying to acquire data and figuring out what needs to be done in order to get the research going. And lastly, being empathetic is going to be very important because I'll be working with others to gather data or to ask for mentorship. So having these characteristics, I think, will help me in the PhD program. Now, my weaknesses that I mentioned during the interview were delegating. Even when I was working bedside, delegating was always something that I hesitated on. Like, if I could get my own blood pressures from my patients, I would do it instead of asking the nursing assistants, like, hey, can you go get the blood pressure for room 7? It's like, I would rather just go get it myself, because then I could check on the patient and then, I could just do whatever else I needed to do. But sometimes that would kind of put too much on my plate, because I really should like delegate and open up more of my time so that I could help my other patients. So I think delegating and seeking help in gathering data or even making conclusions or things like that during this PhD program, I think will be very helpful. And then another weakness that I mentioned in the interview was not asking a lot of questions sometimes. For me, sometimes I don't know what I don't know. So I'm gonna have to make sure to ask questions, ask for clarification if I run into bumps during this PhD program. And lastly, they asked me, what are my goals with my PhD and where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years? And I was just honest. I said, I hope to be a professor. I hope to have my own lecture hall. I hope to have an auditorium full of students, and I want to make lesson plans, grade essays, and have these great discussions with my students. And I know having a PhD will help open doors for that. Okay, so the whole interview lasted about maybe 25 to 30 minutes. And then they said they would contact me in about a week or so to tell me what decision was made. And I remember getting the decision. We were on the road, we were taking a road trip with my family, and I opened up my email and it said, congratulations, you've been accepted into this program. And I was so excited, I couldn't believe it, and I was just so happy. And I shared it with my husband and he was so supportive. Now I am in the process of registering for classes. Luckily, a lot of the classes are already chosen for me. There are set classes that I have to take. I'm doing this BSN to PhD track, so there are a few more classes that I would have to take that MSN students don't have to take, because there is a route that master's to PhD students can take. But since I'm kind of starting behind, I'm just starting with my BSN, I have to take a couple more classes like statistics and other things like that before I jump into like the true PhD classes. And then my orientation is next month. So I'm so excited to meet the rest of the faculty. I'm excited to meet the rest of the PhD cohort. And I just can't wait to get more information about what we're gonna be doing. Now, just to tie everything up, how do I feel about the application process? How did it go for me? Did I like it? Was it easy? Honestly, for me, it was smooth like butter. I just kind of did all the check marks, did this, and kind of just forgot about it. Like I'm busy, I'm still working, I still have kids. So I submitted all the stuff and I was like, if I get it, I get it. If not, it's okay. It's not meant to be. But when I found out that I got it, it was just so exciting. And my mentors have been so supportive of me. I really thank all of my references, all of my mentors. I keep calling them mentors because that's what they are. They have helped support me and lead me and guide me into this PhD track. And I'll tell you a little secret. I kind of already knew that I got in before they even told me, because the administration was kind of seeking me out. Way before I had submitted my application, I sent an email to the director and I said, oh, I'm interested in this BSN to PhD program that you guys are now offering because it's new. And she replied and she was like, yes, please apply. We need applicants. And it was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks before the application was due, and she emailed me back and was like, hey, did you send in your application? We're still taking applicants, and I think you'd be a really good fit. And so I said, yes, I already submitted everything, but I can resubmit whatever you need. And so the fact that they were trying to make sure that I had submitted my application, I think that was a good sign for me. And then I also got the interview really fast. They said like it would take a little while, but I heard back pretty quickly, I think, compared to other people. So that was also a good sign. And then after the interview, I heard back just within days as well. So the fact that everything happened so fast was giving me hope that it was going in the right direction. I didn't want to jinx it. I didn't want to tell anyone, but looking back, I already knew. So I'm so happy. That's my that's kind of how I got into the PhD program. If you have any questions of about how to apply or what you think you should write in your essay or anything like that, feel free to write it in the comments and I will try to reply. Well, I will see you next time.